He was the youngest, the forgotten one, the boy nobody thought to invite. While his brothers wore armor and marched to war, he stayed behind with the sheep. But God was watching this shepherd boy, and he had plans no one could imagine. This is the story of David, a story of giant killers and cave dwellers, of friendship and betrayal, of running for your life and waiting for God's timing, of how a boy who smelled like sheep became the greatest king Israel ever knew. If you love epic Bible stories that show God's power to transform lives, subscribe to our channel and join thousands discovering faith through animation. It started with a prophet on a secret mission. Samuel, the great prophet of Israel, the man who had anointed Saul as Israel's first king. But Saul had disobeyed God, and God had rejected him. Now Samuel was heartbroken. How long will you mourn for Saul? Fill your horn with oil and be on your way. I am sending you to Jesse of Bethlehem. I have chosen one of his sons to be king. How can I go? If Saul hears about it, he will kill me. Take a heifer with you and say you have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Then invite Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will show you what to do. You are to anoint for me the one I indicate." When Samuel arrived in Bethlehem, the elders trembled. A visit from the prophet usually meant trouble. But Samuel reassured them and invited Jesse and his sons to the sacrifice. Jesse brought 7 of his sons, 7 strong men, warriors, leaders. When Samuel saw the oldest, Eliab, he thought to himself, "Surely this is the Lord's anointed. Do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." One by one, the sons passed before Samuel. One by one, God said no. 7 strong men, 7 rejections. Confused, Samuel turned to Jesse. "Are these all the sons you have?" "Well, there is still the youngest, but he's out tending the sheep. Send for him. We will not sit down until he arrives." So they sent for the forgotten son, the one nobody thought to invite, the boy in the fields, doing the job no one else wanted. When David arrived, everyone saw what made him different from his brothers. He was ruddy, with bright eyes and a handsome appearance. But it wasn't his looks that mattered. It was his heart, and God saw it. "Rise and anoint him. This is the one." Samuel took his horn of oil and anointed David in the presence of his brothers. Oil ran down the shepherd boy's face as his brothers watched in shock. From that day on, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David. He was anointed king, but his crown was still years away. Sometime later, war broke out. The Philistines gathered on one side of the valley. Israel's army stood on the other, but no one was fighting. Every eye was fixed on one man, Goliath of Gath. Over 9 feet tall, a champion warrior wrapped in bronze. Morning and evening for 40 days, he stepped forward with the same terrifying challenge. "Choose a man and have him come down to me. If he can fight and kill me, we will become your subjects. But if I kill him, you will serve us." Fear spread through the Israelite camp. Not one soldier stepped forward, not even David's 3 oldest brothers who served in Saul's army. "David, take this grain and these loaves to your brothers. See how they are doing and bring me news." David obeyed. When he reached the battlefield camp, he heard the giant's voice echo across the valley. He watched soldiers run in fear, and he couldn't understand it. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? The soldiers stared at him as if he had lost his mind. Word reached his oldest brother, Eliab, and anger burned in him. Why have you come here, and who did you leave those few sheep with? I know your pride and the wickedness of your heart. You only came to watch the battle. What have I done now? Can't I even speak?
But David's bold words traveled through the camp and reached King Saul. The desperate king sent for the young shepherd. David, before Saul, said, "Let no one lose heart because of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him." Saul, "You are not able to fight him. You are only a boy, and he has been a warrior from his youth." David stepped closer, confidence in his voice. "Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and took a sheep, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep. When it turned on me, I grabbed it, struck it, and killed it. I have killed both lion and bear. This Philistine will be like one of them, because he has defied the armies of the living God." David, "The Lord who rescued me from the lion and the bear will rescue me from this Philistine." Saul, "Go, and may the Lord be with you." Saul placed his own armor on David, a bronze helmet, a heavy coat of mail, but David could barely move. David, "I cannot go in these. I am not used to them." He took them off. Instead, he picked up his shepherd's staff, chose 5 smooth stones from a stream, placed them in his pouch, and with a sling in his hand, walked toward the giant. When Goliath saw him, he laughed. "Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks? Come here, and I will give your flesh to the birds and the wild animals." "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands. The whole world will know there is a God in Israel, and everyone here will know that the Lord saves, not with sword or spear, for the battle is the Lord's." Goliath moved forward. David ran toward him. He reached into his pouch, took out a stone, and slung it with all his strength. The stone struck Goliath in the forehead. The giant fell face down to the ground. A shepherd boy had defeated a warrior, not with armor, not with a sword, but with faith. David ran to him, took Goliath's own sword, and finished the victory. When the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they turned and fled. And that day Israel shouted in triumph across the valley. After the battle, David returned as a hero. Crowds filled the streets. Women came out from every town in Israel, singing, dancing, and celebrating with music as they welcomed King Saul home. Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands. That song changed everything. Saul heard it, and jealousy took root in his heart. Saul to himself, darkly, "They have credited David with tens of thousands, but me with only thousands. What more can he get but the kingdom?" From that day on, Saul watched David with suspicion, and an evil spirit began to torment the king. Whenever the spirit troubled Saul, David would take his harp and play. The music brought the king relief and calm. But one day, while David played, something snapped inside Saul. Saul screamed, "I'll pin David to the wall." Saul hurled his spear. David dodged,
The spear slammed into the wall behind him. This happened twice. Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with David, but had departed from Saul. So Saul sent David away from the palace and made him commander over 1,000 men, hoping he would die in battle. But David succeeded in everything he did, because the Lord was with him, and all Israel and Judah loved David. But there was one person who loved David more than anyone else: Jonathan, Saul's own son, the crown prince. Jonathan had every reason to be jealous. David was rising toward the throne that belonged to him. But instead of jealousy, Jonathan loved David like a brother. Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as himself. Jonathan removed his royal robe and placed it on David. He gave him his tunic, his sword, his bow, and his belt. A prince giving a shepherd the symbols of royalty. Jonathan knew David would one day be king, and he was at peace with it.
Saul's hatred grew darker. What began as jealousy turned into obsession. Again and again he tried to kill David. Finally, he made it official. Kill David. But Jonathan, Saul's own son, secretly warned David. My father is looking for a chance to kill you. Be on your guard tomorrow morning. Go into hiding. Stay there. I will speak to him for you. Jonathan defended David before Saul, and for a short while the king listened, but the torment in Saul's mind returned. Once again, while David played the harp, Saul hurled a spear at David. David escaped. This time he ran for his life. That night, Saul sent men to watch David's house and kill him in the morning. But someone inside the house moved faster than the king's plan. Michal, frantic, whispered, "If you don't run tonight, tomorrow you will be killed." So David fled into the night, from Samuel to the priests at Nob to Gath in Philistine territory. But even there he was recognized, the Philistines murmuring, "Isn't this David, the one they sing about? Saul has slain his thousands and David his tens of thousands." To survive, David did something unthinkable. He pretended to be insane. The future king of Israel, drooling and scratching at doors like a madman just to stay alive. David hid in caves. He wandered in the wilderness. And slowly people began to find him, the distressed, the indebted, the discontented. About 400 men gathered around him, and David became their commander. For years, David ran, while Saul chased him with 3,000 chosen men. And more than once, David had the chance to kill Saul and end it all. But he refused. David's men whispering in the cave, "This is the day the Lord spoke of. Your enemy is in your hands." David crept forward in the darkness and cut off a corner of Saul's robe. But even this small act troubled him deeply. David, firm whisper to his men, "The Lord forbid that I should do such a thing to my master, the Lord's anointed. I will not lay my hand on him." After Saul left the cave, David stepped out and called after him, "My lord the king, why do you listen to those who say I want to harm you? Today you saw with your own eyes that the Lord delivered you into my hands. I did not kill you." David held up the torn piece of Saul's robe. "See this? I cut it off, but I did not harm you." Saul broke down. "You are more righteous than I. You have treated me well, but I have treated you badly. May the Lord reward you for what you have done today." But Saul's repentance never lasted.
The chase always resumed. Year after year, David waited. He trusted God's timing. He refused to force the throne, even when everything inside him screamed to take what had already been promised. Then came the darkest day. The Philistines rose in full force against Israel at Mount Gilboa. The battle collapsed. Israel's army was overwhelmed, scattered across the mountainside. Saul's sons fought bravely. Among them was Jonathan, David's closest friend, the prince who had given up his future for him. Jonathan was struck down in the chaos of battle. The brother David had chosen, gone. Saul himself was badly wounded. The Philistines were closing in. Rather than be captured and tortured, the king made a final decision. He fell on his own sword. The king who had hunted David for years, the king who had once been chosen by God, dead on the battlefield. News of the defeat spread quickly. A messenger arrived at David's camp, clothes torn, dust covering his head. "I came from the Israelite camp. Saul is dead. He was leaning on his spear, and he asked me to kill him, so I did." He thought David would reward him for ending the life of his enemy. But David's face did not show relief. It showed horror, grief, rage. David tore his clothes and wept. Then he gave an order no one expected. "How dare you lift your hand to destroy the Lord's anointed?" And the messenger was executed. Then David did something even more shocking. He mourned for Saul and for Jonathan. David composed a lament, one of the most powerful songs of grief ever spoken. "How the mighty have fallen! Saul and Jonathan, in life they were loved and admired, and in death they were not parted. Jonathan, my brother, I grieve for you. Your love for me was wonderful, more wonderful than that of women. How the mighty have fallen." David wept for the king who tried to kill him and for the friend who had saved him. After Saul's death, David did not rush for the throne. He did what had defined his life from the beginning. He asked God, "Lord, shall I go up to one of the towns of Judah?" "Go up." "Where shall I go?" "To Hebron." So David went to Hebron with his men and their families, and there the men of Judah anointed him king over the tribe of Judah. But the nation was divided. The northern tribes followed Saul's remaining son, Ishbosheth. There would be 7 more years of waiting, 7 more years of conflict. Battles were fought, tensions rose, time passed, and slowly the truth became impossible to ignore. God had chosen David. Ishbosheth was assassinated by his own commanders, and at last the elders of all Israel came to Hebron. "We are your own flesh and blood. In the past, while Saul was king, you were the one who led Israel in battle. And the Lord said to you, 'You will shepherd my people Israel, and you will become their ruler.'" So all the elders gathered before David. He made a covenant with them before the Lord, and they anointed David king over all Israel. He was 30 years old, 15 years after Samuel first poured oil on his head. 15 years of running, hiding, trusting, waiting. David's first act as king was bold. He marched on Jerusalem, a city believed to be unconquerable. But David captured it and made it his capital, the city of David. Then he brought the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem, dancing before the Lord with all his might. The shepherd boy who once watched sheep now shepherded a nation.
the forgotten son had become Israel's greatest king. And God made a covenant with David, a promise that his throne would last forever. A promise fulfilled centuries later by another son of David, a child born in Bethlehem, a king not only over Israel, but over all creation, Jesus Christ.
If David's story encouraged you today, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. We create Bible story animations every week to help you see God's faithfulness in fresh ways. Share this with someone who needs to know that God sees them, someone facing giants, someone waiting for God's promises, someone who feels forgotten. Leave a comment. Which lesson from David's life hit you the hardest today? We'd love to hear how God is speaking to you. Thank you for watching, and remember, you're not forgotten. You're being prepared. Your giant-killing days are ahead of you.